Hi everyone, welcome to the next episode of Execution Matters in B2B marketing. Today I've got my guest as Simon here, and Simon is like a technology executive and a former investment banker who was helping business owners to achieve their dreams using his profit through the process program. And this program is built from the 30 years experience creating the content, products, and selling and running businesses. So Simon, thanks for being on the show.
It's a great pleasure, Bhuvanesh. Good to see you.
Good to see you, brother. So let's start the first question here, Simon. The first question would be like regarding your journey in the B2B marketing. So can you share with us your unique journey and what drew you in the world of B2B marketing? So is there like any pivotal moments or experiences that solidify your passion for this field?
Yeah, okay. Well, if I reach back into history, I guess probably my first real taste of this was back in 2006. So I've been working as an investment analyst, researching stock market companies, working for big banks, people like Goldman Sachs, for about 10 years. And I wanted to try to do something on my own. And so I had a list of customers, clients who I was talking to on a regular basis through my work and reached out to them. And most of them were extremely supportive of the program and my idea and moving and becoming independent. But what you find out very quickly is words of support are not the same as dollars in the bank. And some of the people had a great reason for not being able to help out. Look, we just don't have the capability here to support individual contractors, or it takes a year to get on a recommended list. And some of them you just get ghosted by. But you also find out the people you thought were peripheral contacts that you didn't know so well, they turn out to be some of your biggest supporters. Now, back in the day, we really only had email and phone as a means of contacting people. So it's basically your email, your phone, and your content. So I guess I learned all about hooks and different ways of contact, of grabbing people's attention, different times for emails, different types of content. All of these have very formal names in the world of B2B marketing nowadays. But back then I was just figuring it out on my own and learning by doing. So that was my formative experience in B2B marketing.
Yeah, so true. As you said, the figuring out part, right? I think that never ends, right? I mean, for you, for me, it is never going to end because the technology is evolving, everything's evolving, that we are evolving, right? So the figuring out stuff is never going to end.
That's
So
right.
true.
Yeah, that's
So
right. I mean, that's right. Nobody did anything on mobile phones back then. And in that particular industry as well, heavily regulated, mobile phones are still frowned upon. So yeah, it's a different world. And now I'm in working with small businesses. There's a whole lot of stuff you got to learn about mobile.
excellent. Yeah. Good. So Simon, let's move to the next question here. Okay. So throughout your career, you would have encountered a diverse range of products and services. Okay. So can you highlight some of the most unique or challenging products that you have marketed in the B2B space?
The most challenging. The small businesses that I like to help, the business owners, they're often starting out competing against much larger incumbents. So the challenge here is the first challenge is to build that trust and credibility. Who are you? Why should I listen to you? How do I know that what you're doing works? And I guess the hardest place to do that is what we call data as a service, as opposed to software as a service, where you're just literally providing data by file transfer or via Snowflake or some other method. And all you've really got is the data. There's no fancy front end or the kind of customer experience that way. And yeah, of course, you deliver the data on time. But you know what? You're competing with big companies, the Bloombergs, the MSCIs of this world. They do that all the time. Yes, you have regular updates of your data. Well, guess what? So do they. Yeah, your data's quality checked. Guess what? So is theirs. So data as a service, as a new startup taking on big incumbents, is without a doubt the greatest challenge. Certainly that I've faced.
True, so true, Simon. So let's move to the next question over here. Okay, so so in the ever-evolving landscape of B2B marketing, so everyone has got their own go-to strategies. So what would you say an important strategy that you often rely upon or advocate for?
Remember, a lot of the people that I'm working with, Dinesh, they're trying to break into an existing market. Not always in finance, it's not always regulated market, but there's often an incumbent in there and you're trying to differentiate yourself. So the key to that is generating curiosity about your product, because you've made a product, you go out, you're convinced, you're absolutely convinced that it solves an industry problem. And then why wouldn't you be? You're proud of it and you want to talk about it. But there's some data, I think CB Insights is one of the companies that does this. They say that 42%, if I remember rightly, of companies that fail because they didn't get the market demand right. So you think you've got this product, but actually it's not quite what the customer wants. So you really got to work on standing out. And if you imagine a line, if we draw a line between you and your customer, you've got two choices, right? You can push your product over the line, which may well have been a little bit scary for the people watching this there. And that's the point, right? And when that happens, someone comes at you like that, physically you step back. Mentally we do that. When people push things at us, when they connect on LinkedIn and just pitch straight at us, or they receive a poorly crafted cold email, it's like them jumping at you and you naturally retreat and your psychological defenses go up. Your classic fight or flight mode. So what we want to do instead is we want to bring people over that line towards us. And we want to coax them to our side by provoking curiosity. And you do that by basically getting them to ask you a very specific question. Do you want me to push on and explain more about the question?
Yeah, I got that. I think probably if you want to explain more, you can do that. Definitely, yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's not, yeah, you want them to ask you a question. But remember, in any kind of conversation, sales or marketing or what, all of that, the person asking the questions is the one in control, right? So you go in and start talking about your product, and the person goes, I'm not sure about that, or things like that. They're in control of the conversation. So you want to be the one asking the questions or provoking the questions when you're marketing. Let's talk about this purely from a marketing perspective. You want to be provoking questions in the mind of the person who sees your advert, or the person who receives your email, or the person who's watching your webinar, whatever it is. And the question you want them to be asking is, how did they get those results? Okay, not just any old question. What's your name again? Not a good question. How did they get those results? And the way you're going to do it. So I want you to imagine, do you know what I mean by a beauty parade? A beauty parade is a term that we use it's used in investment banking. It's when you basically go in and pitch your services, and there'll be other banks turning up to pitch exactly the same service. And the customer has to choose, the company has to choose which of the banks they're going to go with to list on the stock market or raise some money or whatever it is. And that kind of concept is quite familiar in all manner of businesses, where you're pitching against a number of competitors who all do pretty much the same thing. So during those pitches, what happens? And this is just the same as if you're receiving, imagine someone sitting there and receiving 3 consecutive marketing emails from two of your competitors, and you're bang in the middle. What is going to make them read and follow up your email as opposed to that? So the other two companies, they're most likely to go, well, this is our product. It does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. And it comes in these 3 colors, and these customers really like it. Right? So you don't want to
Yeah,
do
true.
you don't want to do that. What you want to do is say, and using a real example, my clients save on average 25% a year from their operating costs with this one trick using our product.
Hmm.
And that's it. If you're speaking to someone, you let the silence do the work, because it's in the silence they ask themselves the question, oh, how did they get those results? And then that's what, for example, in the email, you're provoking that curiosity. And then
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah,
yeah,
that's very
you're,
important because if in any conversation, I think we have to really understand from the other person's perspective. Because, for example, when I'm talking to customers, and a lot of times they are not really aware about their problems. And like when you pinpoint the competition, when you say, okay, this website is really doing well, probably this social media strategy is really doing well. When you pinpoint that, then only they really understand. Okay, this is what they have to do in order to really stand out the competition part.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. Look, everyone will tell you, get out there and say the customer's pain point. Yeah, look,
Yeah.
my experience is if you know the customer's pain point, you really know it, then yeah, that's a great approach. But it's not always possible, right? There could be several
Correct.
pain points, right?
True.
The person may absolutely love your product, but they may have a head of tech, a CTO in the background who's dead set against changing anything. How are you going to know that? You may look at their user profile and think, oh, they're going to have these pain points. They're going to be resistant to this or resistant to that. But no, that's not the resistance at all. It's actually someone else in the organization who just doesn't want to change. And you're going to have to work with your supportive user to convince that person it's worthwhile. So yeah, when you're guessing the pain point, it makes it difficult. It's much more general positive approach if you can provoke that curiosity and get them to come to you, because then they'll tell you their issue when they do.
Yeah, so true because a lot of assumptions really get collapsed when you really talk with the existing customers or probably your prospects and everything, right? You get a lot of ideas, a lot of assumptions were wrong about the pain points. So let's move to the next question, Simon here. Okay, so can you please provide an overview about how the stat that you mentioned right now, how it is typically implemented on a real life scenario? So probably you can walk us through a campaign or probably an initiative that you have done from your experience where this strategy played a very key role there.
Oh, okay. Let me think of an example where they won't mind me talking about it. Yeah, okay. So back in 2015, I'm working with a company called Otas Technologies, and they
Mm-hmm.
had a product for investors that basically provided any information they wanted. And it made a beautiful mathematical formulae and really sophisticated, spent a lot of time on the UX and the presentation. And basically it's a all you can eat menu, right? This is the latest cutting edge technology. And it was going fine. It was going fine. And then a competitor entered the market, right? And that competitor came in and said, you know what? Just look at this. This is the most important information. And they took what was our most popular feature and they really focused on that ruthlessly and built their whole campaign about this. They put a little tweak into the way they presented it, but basically it was the same data, but with a little tweak. But the marketing message was consistently, and we started losing out. We started losing market share because we were all over the place because we had these 11 different features and we were cycling through the way we promoted them. And what was getting lost was the strength and depth of our offer. What the competition had done was to take away that kind of power of the breadth of service by focusing people just relentlessly on what they did. So, they would say, the clients would suddenly say, well, these guys are specialists over here. What are you specialist in? So we needed to start all over again. And to do that, I developed a model called the Sun model. right? So SUM. And so we start with source, which is, okay, I need to redo my go-to-market and I need to redo basically my market research. So where's a place, how are we going to source customers that are going to be helpful in this go-to-market strategy? And we could do it one of three ways. We could choose a geography, we could choose a channel for distribution, or we could target customers by a particular feature. Let's say we're only going to speak to people with less than 10 employees, or we're only going to target customers with over 100 million of revenue. Now, what we did with OTAS in 2015 was we chose geography, and we went to Edinburgh because it's a well-respected financial community. It has international reach, but critically, they all talk to each other. And therefore, if you could sell to one, you were going to get references and referrals to the other. Really important when you want to get a guerrilla campaign to go viral quickly. So, okay, that's fine. So now we've got to, once we've sourced where we're going to go with this, we've got to say, well, what's my value proposition? And that's the U of the SUM model, U for understanding. So what is the value proposition that you're going to offer? And the way we do this is we answer, or we fill in a simple statement. And people on this, feel free to write it down and use it. You know, my customers love this. It's, I am building what, for who, to help how, and why. Okay, what, who, how, why. If you answer those four questions, or you fill in those four blanks, you get a nice little statement that is your value proposition. And so in what we did in this particular instance was for OTAS, I said, I'm building the fastest way, what, for money managers, who, to get the information most important to them, right, how, in a world that wants to tell them what to do. Why? Okay, so why did that work? Well, it worked for one very simple reason. That's the M of the model, which is motivate. What is it that's going to move your customer from the other side of the line over to you? And this is what we found out. Because if we could provoke that curiosity about, okay, what do they mean? The one thing that's most important to me. But they are speaking my language, right? Because what our competition had forgotten was that money managers don't like being told what to do. They don't like being told how to manage money. And by just take this one factor, all the others don't matter, they completely miss that point. So if we could actually change our message from saying, here's 11, to what is the most important thing to you? I can deliver to you the most important piece of information at your fingertips whenever you need it. And they'll go, oh, how do they get those results? Right? And so we basically sold the same product, but we completely pivoted from, rather than selling it as a flat 11 factors, we sold it almost like a triangle with a kind of a key point at the end. But critically, the client got to choose what was at the arrowhead and make sure that it was most relevant for them. So I'm not sure if that was a precise example of how you use curiosity, but it explains the process that I teach in my training about how we go through targeting customers, finding them, and then delivering the value proposition in a kind of arrow-like formation.
Yeah, excellent insights there, Simon. And the thing is that about marketing is all about attention, right? So if you need to get the right attention of the right people, you need to raise the curiosity of the people. So in order to raise the curiosity, you have to tell the right message, as you said, like about the what, how, and why. That really matters. That really narrows down whom you target. That makes your work easier rather than going on for broad. Because before some 5-6 years, even when I was doing marketing, I was targeting, everyone was my customer. It was my attitude towards, this is my customer, this is my customer. Now, after some 10 years in marketing, I really understood we have to really target it down. That is most important. And we have to understand from their problems, which probably they will not be even aware, right? So how we can raise the curiosity of them, that really gets our attention. And that is really business, correct?
Yeah.
So Simon, yeah.
I was just going to say, it's just all about questions, Bhuvanesh. It's all about questions. We provoke curiosity with questions, but before we even get to that point, we figure out our ideal customer using questions. We don't say, well, this is my product and this is what it does, and it's going to help you like this. We start by asking, who is my customer? What do they want? What's the single most powerful thing that will motivate them? And then how are we going to take what we've built and turn it into something that they actually want? Questions are always the way to approach marketing, to approach sales, the whole process.
Yeah, the product functionality is always like secondary, right? It's all about the customers because the product is there to cater the customer, right? So
Absolutely.
true. So Simon, yeah. So let's move to the next question, Simon. So as you know, like every strategy which you ideate and is you're going to execute, right? It comes with its own sets of challenges and probably like potential risk as well. So in the context of your preferred strategy, what are the potential pitfalls or risks or marketers should be really aware of, and how do you, like, how we can navigate them?
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, this is the key learning from way back in 2006, working in my front room for myself, was that you have to keep experiment and you have to keep trying, and certain things will work with some customers and won't work with others. Now, I was working a customer and they were in doing one of these pitches, and they were on my wavelength. Like, it was part of their philosophy that, yeah, we don't send decks of more than 10 slides, right? That's, that's just us, right? We're brief, we're to the point, we're client focused. If you want to know more, so we were just completely on the same wavelength. Match made in heaven. Help them pitch. They didn't win. So we went back to get feedback, and this is really important as well. If you get into that type of situation, you can't write emails to people asking, why didn't you read my email? But if you are in some kind of conversation with people, then always go and ask feedback. Don't say, why didn't I win? That's no good. That's a bad question. Ask, could you give me one tip for how I could improve next time? Something
Yeah.
like that. And because people love to share their advice, right? So what we found, they said, oh, yeah, we have a process that we expect all the details and everything to be in the deck. So if you pitch with a 10 slide deck, everybody else is turning up with a 50 plus slide deck, then it's easy for everybody to eliminate you because you haven't got the information. Okay. But we do have all the information. We just didn't overload you with it. So if we send you the same deck, but with a 40 slide appendix, can we get back into the process? And the guy was like, well, I really liked your suggestion. It wasn't, you just didn't fit the minimum criteria. So yes, you can. So we managed to recover the situation, but you must be wary. Trying to provoke curiosity with a single kind of like hook question. There will be people out there, particularly those in those businesses that demand a lot of facts, figures, and data, that you're just going to have more for. So the key there, you can still try the same technique, but have the backup information ready to go, as soon as. And if you get ghosted or you don't get a lukewarm response to that curiosity-provoking question, then find a way to introduce the fact that, look, there's a lot more data and facts and figures that we can use to support what we do here. Would it be useful if I shared that with you? So that's a pitfall. Not everybody, or particularly the bigger, they can have a process that you must go through. So find out quickly what that process is. Maybe try and find someone who's worked with them before in a related field to you, and give them a call and say, hey, look, I see you've worked with company X. I'm doing something here, not competing with you. Could you give me some guidance on, again, nice question. Can you give me some guidance on what worked for you? And they say most of the time people are pretty open and they like giving advice, and they'll tell you.
Yeah, so true. In marketing, and if you want to get the right answers, you have to ask the right question. That's really important because otherwise it'll be like bouncing off the head.
Yeah,
So true.
yeah.
So Steve, I think we have come to the last part of this podcast. So we discussed a lot of topics. So other than the things that we discussed, okay, is there any other areas or insights in B2B marketing that you feel so passionate about that you would like to discuss?
Yes, obviously, we've just discussed one technique here, which is just lesson one of the marketing and sales module that I teach in my online training and one-to-one with people. So there's a whole host more that we could go into. But I think if I was going to give one word of encouragement to people today, well, yeah, certainly over and above trying the curiosity, it's experiment, right? Keep experimenting, right? Um, if you've found your message, if you're confident you've found your value proposition, right? You filled in that statement that we talked about, what, who, how, why. If you found that and it doesn't land the first time, try another media, try another medium, right? One of the most successful people I worked with, when back in the days when I was working in investment banking and I was producing the content and they were selling it, they would always go out, same message, 3 channels every morning. And they used to get teased a bit for it by the customers. Oh, here he comes again. Phone call, DM message, email, 1, 2. I get it. I get it. But everybody remembered, right? Everybody remembered because some people read the email, some people took the phone call, and some people took the direct message. Nowadays, you've got so many more channels you can go, different social media, video, as you say, you can do audio message, you can still pick up the phone like the good old days, you can email. Just try and see what works for your customer. If you really believe in your product and you believe in your value proposition, you will find the right medium through which to get it to your ideal clients.
Yeah, so that really never ends. Like the figuring out part, experimenting, right? The trying part, the matter of the thing of persistence, that is never going to end in our marketing journeys. That's so true. So I think we have come to the end of this podcast, Simon. So thank you so much for your presence for this podcast. So if someone wants to contact you for this program that you're mentioning on this podcast, so how can they contact you? Can I mention your LinkedIn profile link with this YouTube video description?
Yeah, absolutely. The LinkedIn is probably the very best. I'm on that every day. It's Simon C. Maughan, Maughan, LinkedIn profile. Please, follow me for advice. Subscribe to my LinkedIn newsletter if you will. I give out these type of tips weekly for free, and do send me a message. I'm here to help. I'd love to meet you, talk about your businesses and some of the challenges you're facing.
Excellent, excellent. So thank you so much, Simon. Thanks really for your time, and thanks for being on the show.
It's a great pleasure, Vinesh. Great to be here. Thank you.